Hello honey buns and goobers, happy holidays! Today we're going to be doing a sew with me where I'll be showing you how I make this two-piece set from a pattern I developed, so stay tuned for that. Today's fabric is going to be this cute mushroom pattern over this like brown mauve-ish background, and I am absolutely obsessed with it. It's so freaking cute and I can't wait to make cute little outfits with it. To start off, I'll take my skirt pattern and cut out 2 pieces on the fold line. I developed this pattern from a video by an amazing YouTuber called Bambi X Fashion, which I will link down below. She has a ton of amazing content and it's all super inspiring and helpful. That's why in this video I'm not gonna go into how I developed this pattern when you can just go and watch her video, because that is how I developed it. Once both sides of my skirt are cut, I'll clip the good sides facing towards each other. I try super hard to line them up as close as possible before clipping them together, but I also don't clip all the way down the skirt because I'm going to be sewing the bottom hem of the skirt before anything else. When choosing which thread to use, I realized I didn't have a color match to the brown background, so I went with an orange to match some of the mushrooms in the pattern. But whenever I'm sewing a part where the thread won't be visible, I switch to a black or white thread because I just have so much more of those threads and I don't want to waste the colorful threads. I actually end up forgetting to switch to a black thread when I'm sewing the sides of the skirt, so that was a goof on my part, but I remember at some point and then I go on to switch back and forth. Now I have to clip one side of the skirt's hem so I can sew it. Because I'm using a contrast thread, I should be trying really hard to make sure I'm sewing a straight line, but that's a lot easier said than done, so my lines are still a little wonky, but practice makes perfect. With stretchier fabric, I like to triple stitch the hem, but that's all up to personal preference. Once both sides are hemmed, I line them up as close as possible, sewing each side of the skirt together. Once the bulk of the skirt is done, I cut out a longer strip of fabric for the waistband. I make sure to cut it at least 2.5 times the width of the waistband insert. Then I have to clip the fabric over that insert to be able to sew it in. While sewing, I need to make sure to sew as close to the little inserted waistband as possible, but not actually sew over it or onto it because that will risk losing the stretch of the waistband. After this, I need to take both of the new pieces that I have, turn them inside out, and clip them together. Then I will be sewing them together. This is probably the trickiest part of the skirt. Anything on a curve or anything that needs to be like attached and clipped that's separate is a little bit of a struggle for me, but with every skirt I'm getting slightly better, and it's still always easier than a zipper, which is the next big difficult task I need to master. I've only done a few of them and they're really hard and scary. Now that my skirt is all sewed, the last step is cutting off any of the excess fabric. I always have a little bit of excess fabric to cut off. Excess, not excess, whatever. I always have a little bit of extra fabric to cut off because I'm a worrywart and I always give myself way more seam allowance and hem allowance than I actually need. But voila, the skirt is done. I love how it came out and I love how it fits. I think I finally figured out my pattern and it's so cute. Moving on to the shirt. When sewing a shirt, I always start with the sleeves. I don't really know why, but I get the sleeves done and out of the way first pretty habitually at this point. It took me a few tries because I wanted both the sleeves to have the mushrooms going the right way, but I accidentally kept cutting the second one backward, or upside down, I guess. But 2 extra sleeves later, and I finally managed to get both of them right. Once I have both my sleeves cut, I do a little flip and clip. I flip them inside out to sew them. Once they're sewn on the inside, I'll clip a hem back on the outer parts so I can sew that as well. Like before, I like to triple stitch the visible hems. For the sleeves, this is more of a stylistic choice, but the triple stitch will also help keep the sleeves from curling in on themselves while I'm wearing the shirt. Now that my sleeves are done, I can put them to the side for now. Next, I will be cutting the front of the shirt out. My cat always gets curious and tries to help whenever I'm sewing. For this shirt pattern, I traced a baby tee I own that I really like the fit of. I learned how to properly trace a shirt and make a pattern with it from a video by the YouTuber Norstanta Ford that I will link down below. He also has a really resourceful channel that I encourage you all to check out. Cutting out the shirt pieces is pretty simple. It's just important to make sure the mushrooms or whatever pattern you have is going the same way on both sides. Once they're cut out, I clip the two pieces with the good sides facing each other inwards. I'll clip the shoulders and the under armpit area and then a little down each side. Again, I don't want to clip all the way down because I'm going to be hemming the bottom of the shirt pretty soon. Then I'll sew the shoulder seam so I can move on to the shirt's collar. Before clipping the collar down, I like to trim the excess fabric off of the shoulders because I double stitched it for extra reinforcements. Next, I'll fold down the collar and clip it for sewing. This is another tricky part. I still struggle to stitch the collar in a neat straight line, and I'm making it a lot harder on myself by using a contrast stitch, but I accept myself where I'm at. After the collar's done, I'll move on to the bottom hem. It doesn't matter which side you do first as long as you have them end up relatively the same length. When I'm hemming the bottom of the shirt, I again triple and sometimes quadruple stitch it. This was definitely a stylistic choice because I think it makes the bottom look neater, or at least it would if my stitching lines were straighter. I actually had to add an additional stitch to the back of my shirt because it ended up being slightly longer than the front and I needed to fix that. Once that's done, I'll finish clipping the shirts to the bottom, lining them up as close as possible to prep it for sewing. When sewing the two sides together, you want to start from the bottom hem and sew up towards the armpit of the shirt. This will help the bottoms line up and to make sure that the shirt is sewn together evenly. Here's the fun and tricky part, taking all three pieces sewn, putting them all inside out and clipping them all together. I always find this part to be extra nerve-wracking, but it's also super fun because it's the last step before everything comes together. Sewing the sleeves on is a little daunting, but once you get the hang of it, it's super easy. I always like to double stitch because the sleeves are definitely going to be an area that's going to be moving a lot, so you want to make sure that's definitely reinforced. And the last step before everything is done is finally just trimming off any of the excess fabric from the inside and your shirt is basically finished. I absolutely love this two-piece set, which is why I keep making it over and over again in different patterns, but this mushroom pattern is definitely one of my favorites. It's so freaking cute, and I feel like not only can I wear this as a cute two-piece set, but I can also mix and match each piece into different outfits, so I'm excited for that. Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's video. I hope it was informative and helpful. Also, tune in tomorrow because I already have a video that is edited and uploaded and scheduled, so I'll be here tomorrow to see you guys again. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will see you tomorrow.